Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Farmington Board of Selectmen's meeting for Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Item number 1 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for that. Item number 2 is discuss a moratorium on future solar farms. Seeing that there are quite a few people in the audience tonight, what I think I'm going to do first is I'm going to go around to the selectmen, and then after that I'll open it up to the audience. So, Mike.
Well, thank you.
Good evening.
It is my understanding, looking into this, that we have a current zoning ordinance in the town of Farmington, have had it for quite some time. Zoning ordinance is written to say that it has a 75-foot setback. So if you leave it at that, that's what it is. You have come forth asking to have that because it seems too small, too close, expanded. You've asked for 500 feet. The zoning board doesn't have the authority to just up and say, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So they did nothing. So if that is your major concern, is to increase it from 75 to 500, I would think that the planning board is the place that you would go and work that out. To talk about the moratorium means that there'll be no more solar farms built in Farmington at all for whatever period of time it takes to do what? Change the ordinance from 75 to 500 townwide? I get a little confused as to what it is you're trying to do. And hopefully tonight you clear that mud up just a little bit. But that's how I look at it. And I'll be anxious to hear what you have to say to have me look at it differently. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll start with a question. So we're looking to put, we have the option of being able to put a moratorium to the voters in this special
warrant,
town
right.
meeting, correct?
Yes.
We have that option.
We have that option.
Okay. That's what I remembered, but I just want to make sure I remembered correctly. I understand Mike's point, thinking about the people that were here last time and the discussion that we had then, that's what we were going to look into, see if we had that option. Reading the minutes from the zoning board, it looked like they were in agreement to do that, or at least proceed that route. I mean, I know I did talk with one of the board members and they were kind of like, I think it'd be good to review the zoning board, the zoning ordinance on this, because of, we've been through a major project and you don't really know the scale of something until you, especially a project that big, until you see it. You can see a, layout print of it and be like, oh yeah, okay, and then you drive by and you're like, oh, all right. So obviously what makes this a little bit different is after this meeting, not too much longer, an application was put in. So I mean, that just changes it slightly in my mind, but I guess tonight I wouldn't be opposed to moving forward with a moratorium, and I'm not necessarily saying 500 feet is the best route. I feel like that was maybe a number thrown out there to stall everything, but I think a moratorium to review what's happened there, is that what we want to see all over Farmington or not? I mean, I'm not so necessarily, I'm concerned about this spot, but I think we have to look at the town as a whole too. Is this where we want solar panels? Should it be in this zone, that zone? At least look at it. Does it need to be 6 months? Would be my other question. I mean, I don't know how long the zoning board really needs. I mean, I guess for
we
special
can make
town
it whatever we
meeting.
want. Whatever
It's up to 180 days.
Okay, so that's the most they can do.
Okay, so I mean, I guess I'm not opposed to just put a pause, put it forward to be able to put a pause onto it and then say, okay, what do the people of Farmington really want? So,
And would you include this project in that moratorium? Would you?
I guess I would, just for the fact that there was somebody that lived nearby, Adrian, who went to the zoning board when he found out about it, tried, they postponed it, they just said, well, I think you should, but kind of seemed like it all just fell, and I don't want to say too bad, so sad, not a chance, but,
Yep.
I mean, I guess I'd leave right now just to put a moratorium on it with any project at this point.
Okay.
I mean, it's not built, they have broke ground, they're probably not gonna be breaking ground for,
No.
A while.
I think there are also, which Steve was telling me, but I think there are also 2 previous projects that have already been approved that they haven't broke ground on yet as well.
well, I think an approved project you can. I don't think you could do a moratorium on that.
Okay.
I mean, the planning board's already approved it, so, I mean,
It's something we can clarify as we go forward.
right, I think, I would guess I would be under the impression that you wouldn't be able to approve that,
It's my understanding that we can't make any adjustment to a project that's been approved after 45 days from the
Okay.
time it's been approved. So, thank you
So,
for that.
I mean, I think that this is right at that same time, it's not like they've already started digging out there.
Right.
Then we're saying, yeah, well, you gotta stop right now, we want to reconsider, so. I guess, that's where I would be right now, is just, let's put a moratorium on it.
Okay.
And, I mean, what are we, November? So, I say annual town meeting at this point for the zoning. I mean, by the time the budget and that all process goes through, I mean, if we're doing 6 months, it's gonna, or.
If that's what, yeah, so it chooses to be.
If that's what happens, as in, if it gets to that point, then the people would be voting on the ordinance.
Right.
I would try to shoot for to have that ordinance ready for the annual town meeting.
Yeah, we'd have
If
to.
that's a choice of the special town meeting at that time for the moratorium, if they choose to put a moratorium. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Tom, question?
Okay, real quick.
If you put a moratorium on it, what is it that you expect to accomplish during this time the moratorium is in place? Is the ordinance going to be reviewed, tweaked, changed?
I think the point would be to review the ordinance. Is this what we want? Locations of where they are, what zones they can be in. I would just review, I mean, obviously one thing right now that's concerning to Adrian was the fact that it was gonna be so close to his property line. Setbacks, you could look at it and then it would give the time to, it'd be nice to just take a pause before we build another massive.
No, I'm not
So-
telling you, I'm just asking what it is you would hope to accomplish by doing that. If you look at the ordinance and say it can't be in a residential area, is a definite change from what the current
Right.
ordinance says.
Right.
Setback could be a change.
Right.
To say you're never gonna be another one, that would be a change. So whose job is it to tweak the ordinance and put it all together and re-present it again?
Code enforcement, be the code officer.
Code enforcement, working with
Code enforcement.
those concerned.
Yep.
And
Work
when he
with
would be working,
people from the public, and
would he talk to the zoning board?
I would hope to include them, yes. I mean, I think it should go through them as well to get that recommendation before we see it at least.
Okay. But, even if it was a setback from a residential area, take Stanwood Park, for example. They did try to do mitigation but it is there. Is that what we want for every open spot for solar panels? I don't have a dog in the fight right at the moment, but I think we should at least stop and look over everything and let the zoning board review it. Are there things that could have been changed, so forth, but that's all.
Scott?
Yeah, all of that. No, I guess my question is, I know there's a lot of them going forth. I know a lot of people who've been approached to put in solar farms that we haven't even discussed yet. It's coming. And looking at the MMA legal service note here, I guess my question to you or Christian is, I don't see that we can do it. We have to have a special town meeting to put the moratorium in effect, right?
Right, we can't, right, we put it on a warrant.
We can put it on a
through.
warrant, so-
We can't put a moratorium in. 4 of us tonight can't put a moratorium in.
So we would have to call a special town meeting within the next
Or we
30
could-
days or whatever to do
And our
it.
regular town meeting is coming within that. If we choose to go 6 months, it would fall in that,
Yeah.
that timeframe as long as the town meeting was on time.
But we can't do anything now. It has to we can put it on the warrant
Right.
for the town meeting, but that's all we can do.
If we choose to do that, right.
Yeah. And then, and in the meanwhile, have the zoning board work the existing regulations?
Yep. That would be how that would work. The zoning board and or code enforcement would be my task.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead, John.
Right, but this special town meeting, we would have in 30 days, 45 days.
If we chose to go that route, right.
Right.
We can have them before the first of the year.
Right, so what we would essentially be voting on tonight would be to pursue putting a moratorium
Yes,
together and getting it on a special town meeting.
yes.
Right. And then the citizens would vote at that special town meeting, and then if they chose to put it in, it would basically be the first 6 months of the year anyways.
Right, and then from there, it's my
Doing the math quickly
understanding
in my head.
that we can, as a board then, if we need to expand it, we can do that. We just can't put it in to begin with. Actually, last week, I put a lot of thought into this. I have one of those jobs where I spend a lot of time by myself, so I get to spend, I'm alone with my thoughts a lot. And I'd be lying if I said that I just truly love the way they look, you know? Not my thing personally. I'm an open space guy. I'm a woodcutter. That's me. But thankfully, I am a lot of times able to take stuff out and kind of look at it from a different point. And I can't get over what the MMA has put forward. The principal statutory requirements for a developmental moratorium is that it be necessary to either A, prevent a shortage of overburdening of public facilities, sewer, water, roads, schools, public safety, et cetera, or number 2, or B, because existing plans, ordinance, or regulations, if any, are inadequate to prevent serious public harm. Either of these rationales will suffice, though a municipality should cite both as justification for a moratorium if there's a factual basis in doing so. And I can't make that fit in this particular situation. I just can't. And that's my biggest thing. I don't see that it fits. But that's just my opinion at this point. Has the board anything else before I open it up to the public? Good. Who's first? Mr. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for keeping your word and making this happen and caring about the town. Same for the rest of the select board, and welcome to town, Mr. Waller.
Thank you.
I'll try to clear up your confusion, Selectman Fogg. I think you were confused last meeting too, so I'll try to straighten that out. First, why are we here? because we've got a solar development going in our backyard. We covered that last time. So that's probably that's the first reason. The second one, I think most of you folks have touched on during your comments, which is this what we really want here? You know, I came down through, I guess Athens and up that way today, and you know, they're doing it up there too. It's coming hard, like somebody said. We've got a lot of time into our zoning. I think Clayton, even though he's snoozing over there,
Planning board.
had a lot to do with this, 6-7 years ago. Putting a lot of thought into it. The thing is with zoning, things change a lot quicker than every 6-7 years. I was in local government over in Augusta for quite a while, and things change. The rules change all the time. In fact, we changed them right here with the cannabis shops, right? So I think to your point, Matt, why did we have a distance from one to the other? Well, I don't know if it was really dangerous, unless one was. Two's probably not any more dangerous. So I think we've got a precedent for we just wanted to do something different, because possibly an argument could be made that it was dangerous. So I think we have precedent there. I guess I'll just close with, hey, like you, Mr. Chairman, I make my living by using the land and the resources. And, we've got rules we have to live by every day, because the public over the years has wanted to control, to some extent, what you can cut, where you can cut, how close to different things. We're really not asking for anything else. We're not trying, at least from my perspective, we're not trying to eliminate. We're trying to buy some time, like I said the last time, to get our ducks in a row, to get our rules updated so that we can have the right path forward. We didn't get what we wanted or what we expected out here to the east on Route 2. I don't think the landowner did either, other than the checks. I think we've got time to sit down. We've got experts in-house. Maybe the rules come back the same. Maybe this is what we want. But boy, if you sit down at one of the saloons or talk to people on the street, for the most part, at least what I'm hearing, it's not exactly what we want. So, thank you very much.
Adrian.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for helping here tonight, and the board and everybody. I know it's been a process. I'm the guilty one to get it started, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I'm here to not only protect myself, but I want to make sure we have a good neighborhood. We've had a good neighborhood, and that's the way I want to keep it, and I don't think we need to ruin it. And I think we can come to a compromise and make things work. I don't want to drag it on, because you guys have pretty well covered it, and thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Anybody else wish to speak?
So, Alan Tate with Edf Renewables. So I'm on behalf of the Clearwater Solar project that's being proposed next week at the Planning Board. I won't dive too deeply into our project because we'll go into the full presentation next week. I did have a chance to speak with Adrian Harris yesterday. Haven't actually been able to speak with Mr. Martin just yet. Didn't have your contact information. But we're on our behalf trying to make sure that we fit in with your community, that we're not posing an unreasonable view shed on neighbors. We understand that as concerns, and so we've, since our application, taken some steps to add an additional setback on our project. We're now 520 feet away from Adrian Harris's residence. I believe we are 1,338 feet away from Mr. Martin's residence. The field that's right next to Mr. Martin is going to stay in cattle pasture. That's not proposed for development at all. And there will be a substantial wooded buffer where the creek runs through those two fields that will, I think, block any views that he may have from his property. So we're trying to do our best to make sure that those abutting concerns are taken into account with our design. Personally, if the community wants to evaluate their solar ordinance, that's a community decision. I think one thing that would be important to keep in mind would be how you define your setback. Right now, the 75 setback only applies to the property line. If you were to propose a 500-foot setback from the property line, that's essentially going to kill a lot of development activity. I haven't seen anything that strict in many of the communities that I've worked in. I've been in this business for almost 5 years, and across the Northeast, Southeast, and Midwest. A 500-foot setback from a residence I've seen before. If you tie it to a structure like that, I think that that's something that's more applicable, something that the development community can still work with, that would allow these facilities to move forward without being an unreasonable eyesore in your backyard, if that's how you feel about it. I also think that these types of discussions with the abutters are best suited to the planning board, so we look forward to taking it there next week and seeing how the members of the board feel. I believe your ordinance has been in place since 2016, and you've approved a number of projects under it. So from the development perspective, we've been working on this project for roughly 8 months. We acquired it from another developer who had started it before that. We had our initial meeting with the town back on August 30th, and so the town planning staff have been aware of the project for some time and raised the viewshed concerns to us in that meeting. So we were aware that there would be some concerns about views and potential landscaping and things like that. So we look forward to discussing the project next week with the planning board, and we'll also be following to see any steps that the community may take as far as a moratorium to reassess the zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, is how are they going to access into that area? Are they going down Davis Road, down Harris Lane, through farms?
That'll be something that'll be described in depth when they present to the planning board.
And that's next week?
That's Monday.
Okay.
Junior?
Hi, my question is to this gentleman over here. I don't think anybody here has got anything against solar. I really don't. But what did it take to get you to come up here and decide to step back without these people gathering and voicing their opinion? How come you didn't do this before this?
So we've been working with our landowner as far as the development aspects of it. We weren't aware of any significant concerns around the moratorium, so that was the primary reason. Usually our initial meeting with the town is in that planning board venue when we come for a permit. Sometimes the board doesn't grant your approval on that first meeting, and so it's more of an introduction. At that point, you come back with an iterative process before they grant an approval. It's not typical that the projects go to the select board if the select board doesn't actually have an approval of it, is part of what it is.
Like I say, I don't think anybody here is totally against solar panels and that kind of stuff. But it's the person's property that, to me, you are devaluing when you get close as you have that proposed down there. And I realize that it's somebody else's land. But if you ride around this countryside between here and Bangor on Route 2, and maybe that's your deal up there too, I don't know. But I honestly believe an open field or a few houses, 300-400 feet out there, would be a lot different than looking across and seeing all blue metal or fiberglass or whatever they're made of. I really think, considering people's property, real estate, is very important. Because if you're gonna pay the tax, and I'm not saying farmers are high tax, but I'm just saying, when you go to look at a piece of property that's for sale, that's got openness around it, so you don't shake hands with your next door neighbor, makes a big difference on the price of that property. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, so you have made some changes, and you are going to, the setback is going to be more than 75 feet?
Yes.
Regardless of if anything in the ordinance changes, you have agreed, or you're going to agree to that?
Yes, and I'm happy to leave some copies with the town, but we're going to be filing an addendum tomorrow that shows the additional setbacks that we're providing.
Okay.
How about the road? Is the road coming from the farm, from Route 2, is that gonna be
So I
set back?
think we
change?
actually met about a month ago when I was doing the site visit with my colleague.
Yes.
The road is largely going to stay where the existing farm road is. There's going to be one correction where there's kind of a tight curve that goes around a bend. We're going to smooth that curve out for construction access. But significant construction activity is not going to be going from that road all the way up to the site. And we can
Well,
describe this next week in the
There'll be
planning
trucks
as
and
well.
whatever.
Trucks will come, and there will be a delivery point near where the landowner's residence is there, the tenant's residence. We'll have a lay-down area, and then equipment from that lay-down area up to the site will be by like a Bobcat or passenger vehicles, things like that. So there wouldn't be semis carting all up and down the road each day.
You did mention that there was agriculture field there. And so the cows will not be there with all this equipment and road and traveling. So it isn't really going to be left as an agricultural field, is that correct?
So temporarily, I think the cows probably would be relocated during the construction, or maybe that portion of the field would be fenced off. But my understanding from the landowner is he's intending to keep that portion of the property in cattle pasture. It's not going to be a part of the solar development.
But it certainly will disfigure the whole area in terms of what it is currently. When there's going to be trucks or vehicles going up and there's going to be equipment deposited in a certain area. I mean, the field isn't that enormous, so I can see that would be consumed with equipment and activity quite fast.
The laydown area can be confined pretty small, and then any activity is going to be stuck on the access road. We're not going to be driving out through the field, so any disturbance would actually be on the gravel access road itself, so there wouldn't be compaction within that cattle pasture.
And honestly, this is all for the planning board. We're here to talk about a moratorium, not to go into the weeds on this. I do commend you for, going back into this, looking at it, taking their thoughts. I do like that. One of my recommendations tonight, regardless of what we do, is that you guys work together. That's kind of how this town has become what it is, because we do work together. And that I would encourage. But any other questions, comments about the moratorium?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
As far as the moratorium goes, and I'm gonna take the unpopular view here, and full disclosure, I do have a solar project, that's been approved.
Yes.
It wouldn't be affected by the moratorium. That's already approved, it's already done. And as far as views and property values, I'm directly across the valley from Bussy York. You look past my antique barn that used to be a big, beautiful valley, I now live in Solar Valley. So if anybody wants to get mad about property values, it could be me. But it's Bussy's land, he gets to do what he wants with it, as long as he's within the ordinance. And I don't see how we can put that many solar, that big a project in, and then all of a sudden go, okay, that's it. I think that you let something that big get in here, and then tell everybody else, well, he's got to, you can't do it. But Bussy could, but you can't. And so I think there's a real disconnect there. It also sounds to me like your concerns are being addressed, and the need for a moratorium might not really be necessary. But it's with the owner of this land, it's his land. And yeah, there's some things my neighbor does that I don't like either, but it's his land. He gets to do it. Like I said, I know this might be the unpopular view, but I don't think there's a need for a moratorium personally.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a point?
Please do.
In regards to your earlier comment regarding the statutory requirements that was quoted in the MMA section, the excuse me, Maine Municipal Association. The two components there, one, to prevent a shortage or overburdening of public facilities, and it gives some examples: sewer, water, roads, schools, public safety. From an administrative perspective, I do not see how the project would overburden the town services. And as far as the second element, you know, for a moratorium, it's because the existing plans, ordinances, or regulations, if any, are inadequate to prevent serious public harm. And I appreciate too the comments that have been brought in the respectful manner that everyone has maintained while we've been discussing it. But I don't know, and the point was brought up about the prior size, you know, the larger farm that's already in existence. And I don't know necessarily the size of this farm, but my understanding is that it's significantly smaller than the existing built project. And at this point, I don't see that the existing ordinances are inadequate to prevent serious public harm. But more information may be forthcoming, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
I hesitate to say it, but I can't not say it, I guess. Let's just say that Junior or myself bought the Daku farm. We decided to buy it, spent the money, and we own it. Then, whatever reasons is, we have a large field there, but we can't farm it. There's no money in farming. Our age requires we aren't going to do any farming. Someone comes along and says, I'll give you a whole pantload of money if you will lease that to us and let us put in a solar farm. Whoa. Cool, do I still get to own the land? Yeah, you still get to pay taxes on it. But we will give you this much money. Well, I can't do anything with it anyway. I am now your neighbor. If I come to you and say, hey guys, guess what I'm gonna do? You ain't gonna like me much, I'm sure. However, it's my decision and it's my land. I will help you, I would help you out the best I could. And if I don't like 75 feet, we'll push it to 530. I'll get as far away from you as I possibly can. However, I'm gonna build my solar farm. To me, that's what's happening. And no matter how I explain it or anybody else does, you're not happy with my decision. If you play this with me a little bit, you're not happy with my decision, but that's the decision I made. Probably for money. Capital gain, financial gain. So if you go at it any other way than just, when I heard you ask the other night, you wanted to go from 75 to 500. Appears to me you've gotten your 500. If you don't want me to build my solar farm at all, now that's a whole different ball of wax. But that's how I look at it, that where we're at.
I don't think anybody asked for that.
Nobody asked for what?
We didn't ask for that.
For what?
No farm. It's not what we were asking for. So is everybody clear that's not what we're asking for?
No, you're just asking for a moratorium so we can
So that
review
we
the
can
ordinance.
figure out what the right answer is.
Right.
I guess my question to you folks would be, where they're offering what you already want, you should talk it over and make sure you've got your I's dotted and T's crossed, see if that's agreeable, and do we need a moratorium? Is there any need, if you people can sit down and work it out, to go forward with that?
Would that be on a handshake, or would the permits be issued that way, or how does that work?
It would be in their plan that they're gonna submit to the planning board.
That'll be worked through in the planning board.
Yeah,
So you guys have already, so you guys have already put this into your plans, it's been, the updates have been given to the planning board, right?
So the update's gonna go to the planning board tomorrow,
Okay,
but the planning board can always condition the approval
Right.
on meeting these circumstances.
absolutely. But I mean, you guys have put this 520 feet in writing.
They're gonna get it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, so, you know, that, there's your answer, Rob. And it's a matter of public record at this point too, because it was said, yeah, so. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I appreciate personally what you have shared with us tonight. I think you listened to our concerns. However, and the moratorium, you may go for it, you may not, but I would hope that the committees that are represented here tonight think about this the next time a brand-new solar comes in, and that maybe between now and then you could make some changes to the zoning. Not having a moratorium, but at least make some changes to the zoning laws that prohibit them getting so close to people's houses. And I'm not talking for us now, because I think that they've listened to us. But I don't think the people in Farmington are real happy with all solar panels everywhere you look. And you represent the people of Farmington. So I'm hoping the next time you get a new application, and that confuses me too, because an application means it hasn't been approved, but somehow it has, anyway.
No, it has not been approved, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
It's going to the planning board on Monday for approval or
Okay.
disapproval.
All right, I would just like that in the future, you think about, and I know you do, but a lot of people haven't been vocal. And so you've gone on by what you've heard, and people seem happy, nobody said anything. Well, we are now, and we're asking you in the future to think about that before you continue approving solar farm after solar farm after solar farm.
We will be taking a look over the winter regardless of how this vote goes at this ordinance. I mean, it's been brought up, there are a couple other ordinances that we're looking at. Maybe we won't change anything, but we're definitely gonna look into them. You know, they've got a little bit of, they've got 4, 5, 6, 7 years on them. And it's time just to relook at them again. And we do plan on doing that. And we will direct the code enforcement, that this is one of them that they will review, regardless of what goes on now. So.
And I might just make mention that, between and during that time, the public would be encouraged to work with, code enforcement if there are
Absolutely.
particular changes that you want to see to make sure that those are incorporated. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They listen pretty well most of the time. So, with that, I will ask, what is the will of the board? Josh?
Okay, before that, how do we answer the question of valuation of somebody's home?
There was, when Stanwood Park, when we're going through that, because that came up. And the only stuff that I ever saw was it could not be determined whether or not that having something like that in the neighborhood devalued. Because it's all, and I know I can hear the grumbling. But you gotta remember too, not everybody has had all the open space that we have. If you come from a city that's got 10 million people in it, and all you do is stare at concrete, you come up, that's not gonna look that bad. While I might not agree with that, but that is, I think that's a real perception. Having said that, I'm not gonna say anything else, but.
So,
John, go
so
ahead.
just to counter that again, so like, have we actually had the tax assessor or anybody actually look into that of the actual,
Not to my knowledge,
I mean,
no.
because there's gonna be countless places around the country where.
I think we can do it right here in the state, we've got enough
Right,
projects
so that we
now.
actually could see, I mean, obviously it takes time for home sales, did they decrease because they were near the solar farm, or did they stay the same? I think there's probably data out there showing that, so that would actually say, so if you go buy a house, you're not thinking that the solar farm's gonna be next door. Now, obviously, you can't necessarily control what your neighbor does, per se. I mean, we all have ordinances, so yes, we are controlling what our neighbor does on some element. But I think that answer needs to be just, found out of. Are we
And I
gonna
think
be
it was.
depreciating people's,
We need to take it back up again.
I mean, because if you're living in this area and you're gonna go buy a house, and you're on Stanford Park, and you don't live by a solar farm, and then there's this house there, and you're like, I would seem logically, it would cross most people's minds of like, do I wanna stare at that every day? Or some people wouldn't, they don't care.
Right.
It doesn't matter, but I'm sure there's data out there that shows.
And I know, like I say, I know that was brought up, and I can't remember what it was or even close, but we'll get Steve to dig that stuff back up again, so we can review it as well.
Because I mean, that's one thing, like I know we talk about public harm, but public harm, what's the definition of public harm? So you could argue that it's, right, so that's why if you read the next sentences on, it says, most courts won't challenge it if you have something close to one of those things. So I mean, if you were saying, we're putting solar farms in all over the place, you would be harming somebody's valuation of their home, potentially. I'm not gonna say you are, because I don't have any data to prove that, but it's potentially you could be, so. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Clayton, did you have something?
Well, as I said at the previous meeting, we did look at some references to Vermont sales of homes at the same company that put in the big one, and there was no clear, concise proof that there was a devaluation. You can go on the internet, you can Google it in, and it's all over the board. Some say yes, some say no, so they do it just as a wash, basically. That's how we accepted it.
Just personal preference, basically.
So,
We wish to take action on it, one way or the other.
I would rather give them time to see if they agree, and then we can instruct the zoning board, planning board to delve into this and make sure we get some answers that are satisfactory to the entire citizenry.
So we can actually take this back up if we need to next Tuesday, after the, I mean, I don't think we will, from the sounds of it, most of that, you guys have worked out as far as what you guys wanted for setbacks. Your opinion, Mike?
Well, yes, I do. I don't see the need for a moratorium. I'll agree there's a need to look at the zoning ordinance. The gentleman just made a statement that they will pop up here, there, and everywhere. Well, does the zoning ordinance require any certain amount of, they don't require location. You can pretty much, if it falls within the zoning, if it's open, if the zoning ordinance allows a solar farm to be put there, then you can put it there. Perhaps it should look into the size of how close, the proximity of what's there, which perhaps it doesn't. So if you're gonna review an ordinance, you're gonna look at, does it touch on everything that we now feel is important? And setbacks is obviously, but I think setbacks are, the ordinance says 75. I think you'll find if you go to the planning board or the zoning ordinance and ask for a extension or whatever, I think people work together and they're able to work that out and increase it. I'm hearing that tonight, that they didn't stick to the 75, that's it, and that's what the ordinance says, and take it or leave it, and that's not the attitude that I'm hearing or seeing. So for us to review the ordinance and go over it and update it and present the changes to those that review it and go over it will have to be approved and presented, tweaked and messed with before you send it to the town meeting.
Right.
Correct.
So that would be my feelings on that.
So I'm not hearing a motion. So, go ahead, Josh.
I mean, I think for the people in the audience, I mean, I don't think we need to meet next Tuesday.
Well, we're going to anyways.
Well, on this, what I'm
Oh,
saying.
right.
I don't think we need to discuss this, but I think for their sake, I mean, I don't know how they feel, but it seems like we should at least either say we're gonna vote for a moratorium, not vote for a moratorium, what are we gonna do, put it on the record.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I feel, but I don't have a motion to put out there, because I could go either way right at the moment.
I'll put a motion out that we do not at this point put a moratorium on the solar farms. Although that we do look at our ordinances and adjust as needed, as we feel needed in the future.
I'll second that.
All right, then a motion and a second to not take any action on this. Any other questions or comments?
I would just say that if they don't come to an agreement between now and our next board meeting, then we can certainly revisit it.
Yep. If needed. So. All right, all in favor? Opposed? 3-1. Okay. So. And I do thank you for your time and your energy. I will be at the planning board meeting on Monday. I look forward to see how this will play out. And like I say, I thank you for at least stepping forward and trying to do this, you know, and hopefully we can get this worked out. And so,
Thank you for the opportunity.
moving on to item number 3, to approve the minutes of October 26, 2021. The motion is second. Can we do that out there, please? Thank you. Then a motion is second to approve the minutes of October 26, 2021. All in favor? Item number 4, to hold an executive session pursuant to 1 M.R.S. 405.6.8 to discuss personnel matters related to salary and recruiting town positions, which we're gonna ask to be tabled until the night. Yes. Kristen's asked to table that so we can get stuff in order, so.
Kicking the can.
Right on down the road.
Make a motion to table. Item 4.
Been a motion and a second to table an executive session pursuant to 1 M.R.S. 406.6.8 to discuss personnel matters. All in favor? Good vote. Thank you.